had already seen the how what constitute the functions on the land side part of it, and we have been looking at the air side. We have looked at the apron, the parking, and the methods of parking, etc. We proceed with the same topic. Now we talk about the. We will just quickly look at the configurations of taxiways and some of the facts related to the runways. So now we are focusing on, we are continuing to focus on the airside space. Taxiways provide the access, the routes, proper roads for the aircraft to travel across various parts of the airport. So, for an aircraft which is landing or which has just landed, wherever it has to traverse through till it is sort of parked, that route is referred to. That is, once it exits the runway, the route that it takes till parking is what is referred to as the taxiway. Similarly, for an aircraft which is about to take off, the way from the place where it is parked, the road that can connect it to the runway. So providing access to the airport for moving around in the airport when it is off the runway. So that is, those roads or those provisions are called as the taxiway. ICAO definition reads that, this is just copied from the definition that they have given, as a path on a land or land aerodrome established. Actually, that land aerodrome, it may be a confusing word, but then that is to distinguish between, because they also use such terms for the naval, that is ship related this ones also. So this is to clarify that it's based on the land applications. So a defined path on a land aerodrome established for the taxiing of aircraft and intended to provide a link between one part of the aerodrome and another in an expeditious manner. So to traverse that distance in a faster way, the connection provided or the roads provided are referred to as the taxiways. Now, depending on the design and the purpose and the main emphasis of the configuration or combination of the taxiway with the airport, usually taxiways are categorized as parallel taxiways, entrance taxiways, bypass taxiways, or exit taxiways. Actually, the names are sort of self-explanatory, but we will see what they are along with some pictures, as well as trying to understand what are the specific purpose for each of them. So the categories that we are talking about are parallel taxiways, entrance taxiways, bypass, and exit taxiways. Entrance taxiways, I guess, get obvious from the name. They let the aircraft enter into the runway. So an aircraft which is ready for takeoff, entering into the airport, will take the taxiway, which are referred to as the entrance taxiway. So obviously they connect the areas between parking and the and the runways. Usually, by definition, when you see the term entrance taxiway, they will be at an angle. They will be at right angles. They will be connecting to the airport, the runway normally. That is at a right angle. So as you can see in these two pictures, on the right hand side, you can see several circles. Each of them, that is, those are marked within the red circles. Sorry, they are all connecting runways. They are all entrance taxiways which connect to the runway at right angles. So you can see all of them. All the circles indicate various taxiways. All of them connect the aircraft to the runway in a right angle manner. Similarly, on the sketch on the left hand side, you can see the couple of runways where the aircraft can connect at not right angles to the to the runway. So the entrance runways are perpendicular to the entrance taxiways are perpendicular to the runways. They connect the aircraft into the runway. As opposed to that, and as the name indicates, parallel taxiways are parallel to the runway. So for a given runway, so I will start with the photograph on the left side. You can see the runway, and then parallel to that, you can see the so here you have the runway, and parallel to that, encircled here, you have the taxiway. So remember that. So if an aircraft is coming to the taxiway like this, it can traverse, or one way that it can traverse through the taxiways like this, by which it can get into the runway. Okay. Now, as you can see here, that the parallel taxiway is also connected by normal or entrance kind of taxiway. So you have the choice of taking this also. Okay. So this kind of so what we mean, or what we refer to as the parallel taxiway are the ones which are primarily parallel to the runways. So in the right hand side picture, you can see again you have the centrally located runway, and then on either side of it you can see parallel runways, parallel taxiways. Okay, so the parallel taxiways lead to the main to the runway. So that's the configuration of parallel taxiways as opposed to the entrance ones. This picture you can see several parallelly oriented taxiways. For example, here you have the runway like this, and you have these two taxiways which are parallel to that. In other parts of the picture also, you can say, here you can see this as the runway, and then you have a parallel taxiway. Similarly, others. So in any big airport, you can see several parallel taxiways for the runways that they have. Now, the bypass taxiway. Actually, a bypass taxiway, again, as the name indicates, is meant for bypassing an aircraft which is parked ahead. So think of a situation where you have a runway here, and let's assume that there is an aircraft which is sort of parked here. Very bad in sketching. Let's just think that it is an aircraft. Okay. Okay, so you have an aircraft which is parked here, and now there is another aircraft which is coming, and let's assume that for some reason the second aircraft, they mark as 2, this is 1, the second one is actually the one which is supposed to take off first. So as per the scheduled takeoff, let's assume that the second one is to take off first, whereas the first one happens to have occupied the runway first. In which case, the second aircraft will have to bypass the first and still get into the takeoff position. So this is the kind of runway which taxiway which helps it bypass the first one and then get onto the taxi. So typically when you have too many flights to take off and land, this one, etc., Such situations are common where an aircraft will require to bypass other aircraft which are standing in front of it in the main taxiway. So the connecting route which can bypass the main taxiway is referred to as the bypass taxi. So in this case, the bypass taxiway is this part. Remember that this is parallel. This is parallel. Okay. Whereas this part is the bypass taxiway, and it bypasses a part of the runway and then connects it in such a way that the aircraft which are parked ahead, parked before, can be bypassed. I hope the function is clear for this. You have an example, another example for a bypass taxiway in this photograph. You have the runway here. So, you have a parallel taxiway. Now, between the two, so one way is to come like this, but then you have another option. You can come through this as well. So this is a parallel. This is a bypass taxiway. What does it bypass? It bypasses any aircraft which is either standing here or already taxiing on this route, etc. So for an aircraft which has to take off, it can take this route, and also for an aircraft which has landed, it also has the option of taking this route, this bypass route, in case there is another aircraft which is standing in front of it. So that's a function of bypass taxiways. They connect the runway to probably a parallel runway in such a way that part of the runway can be bypassed. And then exit is another category which is sort of follows the same configuration as the entrance taxiways. Now, how do you plan the taxiways? Actually, there are guidance, or there are regulations as well as rules which are to be followed in planning the taxiways. One main important consideration is that the aircraft which has just landed should not interfere with the aircraft taxiing to take off. So this is an obvious requirement because you don't want a situation where an aircraft which has landed comes on the way of an aircraft which is getting ready for taking off. So the taxiway should be in such a way that it can either bypass it or connect it through another route, so that there is that is this one doesn't have to sort of wait for the other to move out or to get out of the runway as much as possible. And obviously they should provide the shortest distance for parking and runways. That is, the taxiing distance should be as minimum as possible. So you can have multiple taxiways, multiple bypasses, but then the overall configuration should ensure that from parking to the runway or vice versa, from the runway to the parking, the taxiing distance should be minimal. And one of another important thing is that any runway should be vacated at the earliest. That is, as soon as an aircraft lands, it should have the facility to get out of the airport, get out of the air. Get out of the runway at the earliest, because runways should be free for the aircraft which are getting ready to take off or which are getting ready to land. So anything that has landed, that is when the landing is completed, they should be taken out of the runway at the earliest. So the access to the runways should be quickest and shortest, so that the airport can clear, the aircraft can clear the runway at the earliest. So this is one of the important guidelines for designing the taxiways and their connection with the runways. Now, there are some taxiways which are specifically designed for the purpose that they facilitate quick travels or a quick taxiing. Basically, as an aircraft lands, it will be having, as we know, will be having a higher velocity. And say, for example, if you have a normal exit taxiway, the aircraft has to come almost to zero velocity before it turns, right? Whereas there are taxiways which are usually aligned at an angle in such a way that the velocity doesn't have to come to be so low, and they can have high speed exit. Again, the purpose is the same as I stated earlier. The aircraft has to be able to vacate the runway as early as possible. So taxiways which facilitate an aircraft retain its velocity to some extent, that is, and landing aircraft to have reasonably high velocity during taxiing is referred to as a high speed taxiways, high speed exit taxiways. That is, they help the aircraft leave the runway at the earliest and at a higher velocity. So that's also important, particularly in bigger airports and airports which have higher volume of traffic. So the angle is usually referred to as given as 30 to 45 degree, the angle of the taxiway where it connects with the runway. Again, it's sort of an optimization to minimize the distance as well as the the deceleration that is required. So both should be considered. It should not be too long a distance, and the deceleration that the aircraft has and requires before turning should be a minimal. So it's a compromise between the two, and usually an angle of 30 to 45 degrees with the runway is recommended for high-speed taxiways. We just quickly look at the requirements for the runways also. Needless to say, the most important facility on the airfield's movement area, where the strength of the pavement, the length, the width, etc., are critically important for the safety of landing as well as takeoff operations. So, depending on the largest size of aircraft which can land or take off, the length, width, and also the pavement of the paving of the runways should be designed to accommodate the structurally as well as geometrically. So there are strict regulations regarding the management as planning of the runway systems in view of the traffic it has to handle, and also the largest size of aircraft that they have to handle. It's a common to do that when you have a larger aircraft, you require a larger landing distance. And I'm sure maybe in flight mechanics, etc., you would have already done more of analysis about all these possibly, or in the design course also to some extent. Anyway, all that these pictures are presented just to indicate how the size of the aircraft is related to the length of the runway required. So some examples actually. Small aircraft, 350 passengers, 1,200. The runway requirement is given as 1,200 meters. ATR 72. ATR 72 is one of the most frequently seen propeller engine aircraft, which is quite common in India. Where for shorter routes, you could often come across ATR 72. For example, if you are trying to fly from Coimbatore to Chennai or to Bangalore, you are very likely to have an aircraft with an which is an ATR 72 propeller aircraft actually. Seating capacity is about 70 passengers and the runway requirement is 1,500. Airbus A320, 180 passengers, 1,900 meter is the runway length requirement. Similarly for larger aircraft also. So actually they obviously they increase with the size, though not linearly. The slope of increase may sort of flatten off. For example, Boeing 777 has the length is requirement is given as 2,500 to 3,000 depending on the exact capacity of the aircraft. A380 requires about 3 kilometers of runways. So very obviously the runway requirement, length requirement depends on the largest aircraft that it has to handle. And then you have, of course, the width is also related obviously to the size, the span of the aircraft, the largest aircraft it has to handle. Another important this one which we are not doing here is the paving, the strength that is to be provided for the paving, how that has to be estimated, calculated, etc., which are more like civil engineering concern. We are not going to those analysis, but then it's obvious that the strength, the structural integrity of the paving is also critically important for safe landing and takeoff operations. So these are the important considerations in the design and maintenance of the runways. I will stop the lecture today here. We have a couple of things to discuss, including the scheduling and the pattern for evaluations, etc., which were asked previously. And I will also I would also like to give the topics for the next set of presentations. Prior to that, if there are questions, points we have to discuss, or any other comments, we can take them up right away. So I'll wait for that before I go to the other two topics. Questions? Okay, please also note that this afternoon I won't be engaging the class. I have a meeting, meeting on research equipments, etc., with the dean. So I need to prepare some data for that. So this afternoon we are not engaging the class. We're not having this one. We will meet tomorrow morning again. Okay. So that's just an announcement. Now I'll go to come to the presentation topics. So should I give it first, or I'll come back to this? Before that, the were questions about the evaluation pattern, schedule, etc. So this is the latest circular that we have received regarding the evaluation pattern. And it goes as, now let's be focused on what we are interested in. 1 second. This is for, sorry. 21-22 event semester. Forget about this. The weightage is for mid-term exam. We have, say, the internal to external is 50-50. So we just go by the first row. So for all these courses which have 50-50 pattern, we have midterm exam. Online component is 10, YY is 20. Okay. Actually, this continues as earlier, but I'm just highlighting it again. The continuous assessment for theory, which is this, is 20, and for end semester it is 20 plus 30. So end semester 20 marks for the online exam, 30 for Viva. Midterm 10 marks for the online exam, 20 marks for Viva. And then a continuous assessment, which is actually which is going to be mainly these presentations that you are doing for this course. This is the split of evaluation pattern for this. Now the time duration, etc. also are suggest. I guess this also follows what you are familiar with. The midterm exam will have 1 hour online. Disregard all this because we are talking about only online. So you have an online test which is 1 hour duration. Similarly, in semester we'll have an online test which is of 1.5 hours, 1.5 hours. I think these are the important points about the evaluation pattern. Any questions? In fact, I don't know much more than what is written here. So if you have questions, I'll try to get answers for that. No, so because I think this already familiar to you, so we'll just move from here. Now, when are they going to be? That's another thing. So we have a schedule which is given because, I consider there will be a minor variation from this because this assumes that the classes start on 17th. But because of the government declaration, etc., as we know, 17th and 18th were holiday. We started the classes on 19th. So I would expect that all the midterm evaluation and the end semester evaluations will have a 2-day shift. This is what I presume now. I will check this and get back to you later. Now, so what does this say? This says that on say the CD, the contact days. So on the 11th or 12th contact day, you will have the midterm exam, which as per the original schedule was 1st of February. But now I expect that this can be revised as 3rd of February. I'll confirm this. So the midterm evaluation will be earliest on 1st or practically or most probably on 3rd. Okay, so 1st February or 3rd February, I'll get back to you on this. Okay, so that's when the midterm evaluation is going to be. Evaluation, as I mentioned, the online test followed by Viva. And then the in-sum examination as per the schedule is to be on 17th of February, but I would expect that it will be on 19th because of this 2-day shift. Okay. So this is as of now the schedule for midterm and in-semester. And I guess I've been saying periodical, etc., periodical 1, 2, etc., which is not the case anyway. It's only midterm exam as it was in the previous semester. So it's only midterm exams. The previous online patterns. That's all. Any questions on this? Okay, so then we will go to the presentation topics. Yeah, here what we had previously discussed about airports, their functions, what all should be the attractions, what all should be what that we had looked at that ensure, facilitate, attract, 3 components, and how airports should cater to that. So I've listed here 3 modern airports. One, the Changi Airport in Singapore. What I would require is that you make presentations. We can get data from the respective airport sites or articles related to that, etc. It's quite easily available. What I want is any special facilities, special aspects related to each of these airports and their USPs, ultimate selling points. What do they claim as their most important worthiness or their the most salient aspect, or what makes them unique as per their claim? Okay, so and also the major attractions in them. So as we have discussed multiple times earlier, an airport is not just a destination or a transit point. It's a point that makes an, it's a place that makes an impression about the destination, about that particular city. So when you present, try to focus on facts or the attractions which sort of conveys a message about that particular city or that particular destination as reflected by the facilities or the architecture or the layout or whatever, the displays, etc. in each of these three airports. So we have three airports. One is the, so team one, may please talk about Singapore airport, the Changi airport. Actually, Singapore has just one more. Changi is the most important airport there, Changi International Airport. And JFK Airport, New York, again very busy, and one of the most famous airports. And then our own Kempegowda Airport in Bangalore, renewed in the recent years, not recent years actually, must be more than a decade now, I think, since they started operation in the new building. But it has been a major expansion for the Bangalore airport. So it's fairly attractive and fairly large airport, at least from the Indian context. And then Dubai airport, which also has certain several unique aspects in its design and uh, facilities and operations, etc. So team one on Changi airport, two the specifics of John F. Kennedy airport, three Kempegowda airport, and team four can talk on Dubai airport. So whatever you find as attractive or unique about these airports, you can just put present and discuss. Is that okay? Any questions on that? These airports are fairly famous, and I guess all of them are highly crowded. I have myself visited three of them. I've not been to Dubai, not even in transit. Singapore, yes, once, and JFK also, I guess once or twice. Bank, the first three I'm sort of familiar with. Dubai airport, I'm yet to use it, and I'm not a. I don't like travel a lot. I don't like travel at all. So all the travels that I've made are when it was essential or I could not get rid of it. Anyway, that's my personal experience. So any questions about the points or any the topics of discussion? As I mentioned, we are not having the session this afternoon. We will meet tomorrow morning. So we will have the presentations tomorrow morning and afternoon.
Sir, what will be the portions for midterm?
We have what I will do is till the day before that I'll tell you that later.
Okay.
So let's as of now just take it as whatever we cover till, what should I put? Today is what? Today is 27, right?
Yeah, yes.
Let me see. 27, 28, 29, 27, 28, 29, 30 are holidays. 30 are holidays, 31st. Say, if it happens to be on first as per the given schedule, then we will keep whatever is covered on till 28th, which is tomorrow. But most probably it will be on third, in which case we will have up to whatever is covered on first. Let that be the understanding now. So if it is on first, we will have till tomorrow's for whatever we cover tomorrow. Otherwise, we'll have the next 2 days also. Okay, I will confirm this. I'll confirm this tomorrow when we are going to have the midterm exam. Well, I just want to confirm with them that this shift is okay, because on this I have not received any communication so far. Because after the change in the initial first date, we have not received any communication on the updated schedule. But at the same time, since they are talking about the schedule in terms of the contact days, I would expect that the midterm and the end semester should be with respect to the contact days. So the shift of those 2 days have to be reflected in that is what I expect. I'll try to confirm that tomorrow. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine, sir.
Yeah. Okay, then. So if no other questions, comments, will stop for the day. We will meet tomorrow morning again. Thank you. Thanks for all of you. Bye.